Hey guys, this is just a quick video to take you through the poetry analysis essay instructions. So I do try to make my instructions pretty user-friendly. They are long, but it's meant to be like helpful. So if you're like, oh God, this is this is such a, why is it 5 pages? It's meant to be a resource for you when you're writing. So that's the goal, all right? So it's meant to be helpful, not punishing, okay? So big thing here, we want to be analyzing a poem, and you should watch the video about the difference between summary and analysis. But the big thing here is that we are going to start thinking analytically about literature. So analyzing things very much comes with this idea of asking questions, as much as, we think about like critical thinking, like, oh, I'm going to read this and decide and judge it or something. Good critical thinking and good analysis is all about asking questions, or at least that's where it starts. So in order to analyze something well, we want to break it down into its kind of components. So use that literary toolbox document to help you break down the poem into the different components that we're working with. I know you worked with abstract and concrete, and there are lots of other, vocab words, for lack of a better term, that are going to help you in that literary toolbox document. So step one, break it down using those words to help you. And then you're going to make observations. So how to kind of ask yourself, like, how do these parts work together? And you're going to ask good questions. So how and why are really great analytical questions. So break it down, make observations, ask questions. And then after you've sort of inspected it, made observations, ask questions, you can come to some conclusions about it. So you can say, all right, hey, well, this poem has this abstract idea of freedom in it. And how does that play out in a concrete way? Well, it plays out in a concrete way by talking about some birds. Poetry has so many birds in it. And you kind of come to that conclusion. So up here at the top, this overview is really just explaining like different ways that you can ask good analytical questions to make sure that you are analyzing instead of just summarizing your poem when you turn in your essay. So we're looking really at how poems create meaning. So how does the poet use imagery to make you see or feel something? Why might the poet have chosen this particular word? How do the line breaks affect things? So really, if you're asking how and why questions, that's a really great way to make sure you're thinking analytically about stuff. And you can read through these, and also your poetry worksheet will help you here. Your essay needs to end up being about 600 to 900 words. 600 is the minimum, but don't go too crazy. And you're going to talk about how the poem works. So how does the poet use language and structure, so structure like line breaks, to explore some kind of theme or big idea like shame or guilt or that kind of thing. Death. There's all sorts of fun poems. And then when you write your essay, you're going to use specific lines from the text or specific words, and the shorter the better here, really. Like, you don't want to put like half the poem in as evidence. You want to keep your evidence pretty short, so as minimal as possible to make your point for it to function as evidence. So if you have a few lines in, or like a few words in a line of a poem that really brings to life what claim you're trying to make about the poem, you don't need to put that whole line in there. Just put those few words. So I do want you to use lots and lots of evidence to back up what you're saying, but that evidence shouldn't be too long, and you should unpack that evidence. So if you're going to include a line from a poem, like maybe Mary Oliver is saying, you do not have to be good, don't just throw it in there, right? So talk about how this piece of evidence relates to how the poem creates meaning or some other theme, that kind of thing. So use evidence, keep it short, and then make sure you're unpacking it in an analytical way. So thinking how the poet is using it, why they would choose these specific words. And with poetry, we're really looking at how words are used. So we're not thinking less of like big paragraphs and characters and all that stuff we're going to get into with short story and drama, and we're looking really at the words themselves. Okay, your essay should be formatted in MLA. You don't need to make a works cited page or internal citations for this one, unless you decide to include some outside source, which is not a requirement for this essay. So again, you're going to pick one poem to write about from the readings in our unit. So don't pick something random from wherever else. Pick one poem from the poems document and write about that one. So since we're all using the same document, and since I know where these poems came from because I made you the document, you do not need to cite the poem that you are working with. Okay, and there is an MLA structure section in your D2L course modules, like I think it's like one towards the bottom, and it'll show you how to set up that MLA first page. So read about that. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to send you more resources for that. I don't make videos about MLA myself because there are better there are better ones than my tech would allow available on YouTube, so I've linked those for you. I've got you here some steps for writing well. So again, look at that literary toolbox to understand how the different poetic elements work. So imagery, tone, we're not going to see a lot of rhyme here, symbolism, that kind of thing. And annotate the poems as you read. So like if you can print these off, that's great. If you can paste them into a document or something and put little comments, that's great. And that way you can kind of label your literary elements. So, oh, this is a metaphor. Oh, this is imagery. Yeah, choose one poem, pick one major theme from that poem, and identify the literary elements present that create this theme. So theme is just going to be some big abstract word, again, like guilt, death, shame, birds. Birds isn't an abstract word, but you will find lots of birds. And you're going to gather your evidence about how those literary elements contribute to your chosen theme. So you're going to create, this is where you're going to get your list of quotes going. And then after you get your list of quotes going, you can kind of group them by literary element. And then that's like your outline, sort of. So if you find that you have, a group of quotes about birds, as you grab your evidence, then, turns out you have a paragraph about birds. And then build your analysis. So you're going to talk about how the poetic elements work together to create that overall theme and that big meaning. And hopefully your poetry analysis worksheet will help you here. Then you can develop a working thesis. Oh, that's like cut off weird, right? I'll give you something for that. Build your analysis around your quotes. So you we're going really highly evidence-based. We don't want to summarize too much. We want to pick really good quotes that show how the poet is using those literary terms, those poetic elements, and then unpack that as fully as you can. So essay structure is down here. Writing is thinking, and thinking is messy. We don't think in a straight line. The point of writing is to help you get your thoughts into a straight line. But when they come out, they're going to be all messy, and you can organize them later. So it will help your writing efficiency and lessen your writing misery if you don't try to start with the very first sentence of the introduction. So get all your ideas together, like brainstorm, get some ideas out, do a free write, and then you'll see kind of more what you're working with here. And you can build your essay out that way instead of just staring at a blank page and feeling like you have to write the first sentence first. Get a bunch of notes, organize those notes, and then, turn them into sentences. That's really the best order of operations that I can give you. And you can look through the general essay outline here at some point, I guess, in the first week of the poetry unit, or not the first week, second week, sometime. Sometime you will be assigned to look at some links about essay structure, and that will go more into this stuff, but this is just so you can outline your essay. So I will be looking for your essay to definitely start off somewhere with the title and the poet's name. Like, we need to talk about that, and you can summarize the poem briefly, and then state your chosen theme topic and how the poet uses literary elements to express it in your thesis statement. Your body paragraphs should have topic sentences that refer back to the thesis. So if you say there's a literary technique or literary device, whatever, I kind of use them interchangeably, clearly, so if you say that the poet is using like metaphor in your thesis statement, then you should have a topic sentence that talks about that, in a paragraph that talks about metaphor. If you say that that in your thesis statement, if you say the poet uses metaphor and imagery and symbolism, then I would expect 3 body paragraphs, one of which has a topic sentence about metaphor, another one should have a topic sentence about imagery, and another one should have a topic sentence about symbolism. So make sure that your topic sentences aren't just moving like summary forward. So I wouldn't necessarily structure this essay by, okay, well, first paragraph's about the first part of the poem, second paragraph's about the second part of the poem. I would, again, to keep you thinking and writing analytically, break up your paragraphs by literary element, and then have your topic sentences go into the specific literary element you're looking at in that paragraph. And then it talks to you about how to use the quotes, and how to set up your conclusion. So a good poetry analysis is going to focus on theme or deeper meaning. So like how a poet is using specific language to bring the idea of shame to life. And that will be in terms of like imagery, tone, metaphor, line breaks, all of that good stuff. You'll use specific evidence. You will interpret, not just to observe. So we're not saying what's there, we're saying more about why it matters. Your ideas should be organized, or your poems, or your essay should be organized by ideas, not just the order of the poem. You should have a clear thesis statement, and you should use your own voice. So this should feel like a conversation about a poem, not just a list of terms or a super formal report. So that doesn't mean this is all about reflection and about you and how you felt about this poem, or what this poem reminded you of from your life. It's not a reflection, but I encourage you to write it kind of more conversationally than a super duper formal essay, just because I think you'll find it's a little bit easier to do that. So again, you're not talking about your feelings, you're not talking about how your experiences relate to the poem. We're still being super duper analytical. We're really focused on the poem itself and how the poet uses language to bring some theme or idea to life. And you may have lots of thoughts and feelings about that, you may not, whatever. But we want our essay to be very focused on analysis and the poem itself, and not a reflection. A reflection would be like how you feel about it, or what it reminds you of. So again, this is analytical, not reflection, but I encourage you to, for this one anyway, to not try to make it sound too stuffy. Sound like yourself. That's good. Don't summarize or paraphrase too much. Assume that I have read this poem, which I have. I've memorized half of them. So assume that that I've read this, and you don't need to like give me the blow by blow. Just use your evidence well. And yeah, make thoughtful connections. Relate the poem's meaning to stuff that's happening if you want to, or emotions or experiences. Not a reflection, but you're trying to make thoughtful connections between how the literary elements work and how this theme comes to life. And maybe in the conclusion you say something about how this connects to something else. Just not too reflection-y. So I also have this revision checklist down here for you, and this is to like you go through this, and if you can check off all these boxes when you're done with your essay, then that's pretty much the rubric. And you can see the rubric on D2L too. That's visible in the assignment folder. So yeah, read through these. Do go through this checklist before you turn it in. I would rather you go through the checklist and turn it in a day or two late, no big deal, than turn in a super rushed essay, or of course something that's just like totally written by AI. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions.